My world didn't just crack, it detonated, shattering into a million unrecognizable pieces the moment I saw my fiancé and my cousin in our bed. I'm Maya, and at 24, I learned that trust is the most fragile thing in the universe, and that the people you love the most are the ones who hold the sledgehammers. Isla wasn't just my cousin. She was my twin soul, my other half in a way that blood alone could never explain. Our mothers were sisters, incredibly close, and Isla and I were born just 3 months apart. We grew up in the same suburban Toronto neighborhood. Our lives a tangled, beautiful mess of shared experiences. We had the same taste in music, the same stupid sense of humor, and we'd made the same pact since we were 10. We'd be each other's maid of honor. Our kids would grow up together, and we'd be 2 old ladies side by side on a porch, still laughing at inside jokes from a lifetime before. When I was 18, I met Ben. He was a friend of my older brother, Nathan, and he started hanging around our house. He had this quiet, intense confidence that was different from the loud boys at my college. He was handsome in a classic way, with dark hair and thoughtful green eyes that seemed to see right into you. I was shy, bookish, and completely smitten. Isla knew, of course. She was the one who nudged me at a family barbecue, whispering, "Just go talk to him. Maya, he keeps looking at you. I swear, if you don't, I will." So I did. That conversation led to another, and then to our first date. Ben and I became a couple, and for years it was perfect. He was my first love, my first everything. After university, he proposed during a trip to Prince Edward Island, on the red sand beach we both loved. I said yes ecstatically. Isla was the first person I called, and she screamed with joy for me. The first sign that something was wrong was subtle. About a year into our engagement, Ben became distant. He was working long hours at his new architectural firm, or so he said. He'd forget plans we'd made. His texts became short and infrequent, and the easy physical intimacy we'd always shared faded. When I tried to initiate anything, he'd brush me off with a tired sigh, mumbling about stress. I blamed myself. I thought maybe I was being too clingy, that the pressure planning a wedding was getting to him, too. I tried to be the perfect, understanding partner, cooking his favorite meals, giving him space, trying to be sexier, funnier, better. The truth found me in the most mundane way. I was using his laptop to order takeout while he was in the shower, and a Facebook Messenger notification popped up from Isla. The preview text was a heart emoji. Something cold twisted in my gut. I knew it was wrong, a violation of trust, but force stronger than my conscience made me click on it. And there it was, a torrent of messages, stretching back months. They weren't just friendly. They were intimate, flirty, and then explicitly sexual. They talked about me, mocking my naivety. They shared details about our sex life, with Ben complaining about how vanilla I was. And then there were the photos. My best friend and my fiancé, sending each other images I could never unsee. I felt physically sick, my hands trembling so hard I could barely close the tab. I heard the shower stop, and I quickly shut the laptop, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I didn't confront him. I knew he'd lie, gaslight me, make me feel crazy. The final, brutal confirmation came a week later. Ben had told me he was going on a team-building retreat for the weekend. A gut feeling, a deep primal dread, told me to check. I drove to his apartment, letting myself in with the key I still had. The place was quiet. I walked toward the bedroom, my footsteps silent on the plush carpet, and pushed the door open. There they were, in the bed he and I had chosen together. They weren't just sleeping. They were entangled, naked, the sheets a mess around them. Isla's head was on his pillow. Time stopped. The air was sucked from the room. I must have made a sound, a choked gasp, because Ben's eyes flew open. The look of sheer, panic horror on his face was something I will carry with me forever. Isla turned, and her scream was short, sharp. "It's not. Maya, wait." Ben stammered, scrambling. I didn't say a word. I couldn't. I turned and ran, their voices chasing me down the hallway. It's not what it looks like. What did it look like then? A complex architectural diagram. I made it to my car, my vision blurry with tears, and fumbled for my phone. I called Nathan. "Come get me," I sobbed, barely able to form the words. "Now." He was there in 10 minutes. I told him everything in a broken, hysterical rush on the drive home. He held my hand, his knuckles white on the steering wheel, his face a mask of cold fury. At home, with my parents and Nathan, I collapsed. The betrayal was a physical pain, a wound that felt like it would never heal. But the betrayal from Isla, that was a different kind of agony. It felt like a part of my own history, my own identity, had been ripped away and set on fire. Nathan, always a pragmatic one, took charge. "Do you have proof?" "Screenshots." I nodded, tears streaming down my face. "Good. Keep them. Now you're going to text both of them one message. 'We are done. Do not contact me again.' Then you're going to block them. And then we're going to tell everyone. We control the narrative." I did as he said. My fingers shook as I typed the message, sending it to both Ben and Isla before blocking their numbers. Then, with Nathan's help, I composed a message to our entire extended family and mutual friend group. I kept it simple, attaching a few of the most damning but non-explicit screenshots. It is with a broken heart that I share that my engagement to Ben is over. He has been having a long-term affair with my cousin, Isla. I cannot express the depth of this betrayal. I ask for your support and understanding during this time. The fallout was nuclear. My phone exploded with notifications. My aunt and uncle, Isla's parents, were devastated and horrified, calling my parents repeatedly to apologize. The family group chats fractured. Some people took my side immediately, expressing their outrage and support. Others, surprisingly, defended Isla, saying these things happened and that I was being dramatic for going public. I lost a lot of people I thought were friends, but in the end, I was left with a small, solid core of true ones in my incredible family. Ben showed up at our house a few times, but my father and Nathan stood on the porch and told him in no uncertain terms that if he ever came near our property again, they would call the police. My dad was a rock, his quiet support more powerful than any outburst. He assured me he would end his golf outings with Ben's father, but I told him not to. His friendship was separate, though Ben was never to step foot in our house again. Healing was a slow, painful process. For the first month, I was a ghost. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. The image of them in that bed was burned onto the back of my eyelids. I felt worthless, ugly, and stupid. How could I not have seen it? I started dissecting our entire 4-year relationship, and with the clarity of hindsight, the red flags were everywhere, waving like giant crimson banners. Ben had always been subtly critical. He'd make jokes about my ambition to be a novelist. "A hobby is nice, Maya, but maybe I have a real career to fall back on," he'd say. He criticized my body when I put on a few pounds during exam season, suggesting I join him for his 5 a.m. runs. I brushed it off as his blunt honesty. I discovered, through a mutual friend, that he kept a private Instagram account where he and his buddies from university would rate women they knew, assigning them scores based on their looks and personality. I was on that list, with a patronizing comment from Ben about me being sweet, but needs to come out of her shell. The insecurity that seeded in me was profound. The final nail in the coffin of my grief was a realization that several of our mutual friends had known. They had seen Ben and Isla together at bars, acting too cozy, and had chosen to say nothing. The betrayal was a multi-headed monster. Just as I was finally starting to feel like myself again, building a new life, going to the gym, focusing on my writing, and even starting to tentatively date a kind man named David from my writing workshop, my mom began to stir the pot. You see, her sister, Isla's mom, was her best friend. My mom had been supportive initially, but now she started a campaign for forgiveness. Life is too short to hold on to this anger, Maya, she'd say, sighing. She's family. Your aunt is heartbroken. Can't you just let it go for the sake of family peace? Don't let a man ruin your bond. Ruin our bond? I'd retort, my voice trembling. She didn't just steal my man, Mom. She shattered our entire history. She knew everything about me, about us, and she did it anyway. My mom's reasoning was always circular. She says she's sorry. She was in a bad place after a breakup. It just happened. It just happened? Over and over again for months in my bed? That doesn't just happen. Mom, my father and Nathan were firmly on my side. The decision is yours, sweetheart. My dad would say, giving my shoulder a reassuring squeeze. No one can tell you when or if to forgive. But my mom was relentless. It felt like a fresh betrayal, and it reopened the wound every time she brought it up. The situation came to a head during a family dinner. My mom casually mentioned that my aunt had suggested a family brunch to clear the air. I think that's a wonderful idea, my mom said, beaming. We can all finally move on. I put my fork down. Move on to what, Mom? A brunch where I have to sit across from the two people who destroyed me? No, absolutely not. My mom's face fell. Maya, you're being so stubborn. You need to learn to let go of the past, or you'll become a bitter, lonely person. The anger that had been simmering inside me for months boiled over. What if it was you? I snapped, my voice low and shaking. What if Aunt Clara had an affair with Dad, and you walked in on them? Would you be so quick to let it go and go for brunch? The reaction in the room was instantaneous and electrifying. My mom's face went pale, then flushed a deep red. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. She looked from me to my father. Her expression, a mixture of shock and something else, guilt? My father cleared his throat, his face grim. You should tell her, Evelyn, he said quietly. She's old enough. She deserves to know the truth. And so the second bomb dropped. My mom, looking utterly defeated, confessed a story that made my own drama seem like a minor skirmish. It turned out my Aunt Clara, the picture of suburban respectability, was a serial cheater. She had cheated on her first husband multiple times. The final straw was when she got pregnant by one of her affair partners and tried to pass the baby off as her husband's. He was no fool. He demanded a paternity test. When the truth came out, he divorced her immediately. He was a wealthy man with a ruthless lawyer and a prenuptial agreement. She was left with almost nothing. My mom, despite being furious with her sister, had helped her get back on her feet. The bond between them, forged in her own shared childhood and my mom's sense of loyalty, was incredibly strong. But it didn't end there. A few years after the divorce, deeply depressed and drunk, Aunt Clara had indeed tried to seduce my father at a family party. He had recoiled, pushed her away, and told my mom immediately. My mom had confronted her sister, who was profusely apologetic, blaming the alcohol and her grief. My mom, in her infinite capacity for forgiveness, had taken her back. But according to my dad and Nathan, Aunt Clara never fully stopped her subtle, flirtatious advances towards my dad, who had learned to simply avoid being alone with her. I stared at my mother, stunned. So all this time, you've been pushing me to forgive the daughter because you couldn't bear to cut off the mother? The woman who tried to sleep with your husband? It's different, my mom cried. Your father never betrayed me. And Clara, she was my sister. She was there for me after I lost a baby. Her voice broke. This was a pain I knew about. My mom had a miscarriage between Nathan and me. It had devastated her. Clara was my rock. She cleaned my house. She cooked. She brought Isla over to play with Nathan, so I wouldn't be alone with my grief. She saved me. The pieces clicked into place with a sickening finality. My mom saw Isla as a child of the woman who had saved her. Forcing a reconciliation between Isla and me was her twisted way of repaying that debt and keeping her sister close. She was terrified of losing that connection, of facing the void that her sister's absence would create. She was trying to fix my broken friendship, to save her own. I felt a wave of pity for my mother, but my resolve was steel. "Mom," I said, my voice softer now, "Aunt Clara is welcome here. I won't be rude to her. But Isla is never, ever setting foot in this house again. And you need to stop pushing this. You need to see a therapist, because this isn't healthy. You're clinging to a toxic person out of a sense of guilt and obligation." The confrontation left everyone drained. I was reeling from the revelation about my aunt. I decided to take matters into my own hands. I needed to look the monster in the eye. I texted Aunt Clara and asked to meet her for coffee, alone. Nathan, ever the strategist, insisted I record the conversation on my phone for my own protection. We met at a quiet cafe. She looked older, the carefully maintained facade beginning to crack. I told her everything my mom had confessed. I told her she was still welcome in our home, but that Isla was not. She listened quietly, her hands wrapped around her coffee cup. When I finished, she sighed, a deep, weary sound. "I should have known this would come out," she murmured. "I never wanted my daughter to turn out like me. My mistakes, they ruined her childhood. Her father was a good man. I lost him because I was selfish." She began to cry, soft, genuine sobs. I lived with that guilt every single day. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "I understand you feel remorse," I said carefully. "But that doesn't change what Isla did." Then she looked up, and her eyes were different. The vulnerability was gone, replaced by a defensive hardness. "I knew, she said, her voice dropping. "I knew about Isla and Ben." The air left my lungs. "You knew?" I told her to stop. I did, but she said it was just a fling, that they were just friends with benefits, and it would fizzle out. I told her she was going to be so stupid, to at least be discreet. She said it so casually, as if she were giving advice on a hairstyle, not on how to better conceal an affair with her niece's fiancé. My blood ran cold. "You knew the entire time, and you said nothing to me. You let me plan a wedding. You listened to me talk about my future with him." Her mask slipped completely then. The pity party was over. "What did you expect me to do, Maya? Ruin my daughter's life? Your mother, she doesn't understand real life. She's simple. She married a good man and lives in her little simple world. She never had to fight for anything. She doesn't deserve the perfect life she has." The venom in her voice was shocking. "She's your sister," I whispered, horrified. "She's a boring, pathetic woman who latched on to me because I was popular and she wasn't. Your dad could have done so much better than a small-town girl with no ambition." The jealousy and bitterness were corrosive. I had heard enough. I stood up. "You are a vile woman," I said, my voice trembling with rage. "And you have raised a daughter to be your mirror image. You are no longer welcome in our home, and you are no longer welcome in our lives." I walked out, my heart pounding. As soon as I got home, I played the recording for my mom. She listened in silence, her face growing paler with every hateful word from her sister's mouth. When it finished, she didn't say a word. She just picked up her phone, dialed a number, And when Clara answered, she unleashed a torrent of fury I had never heard from my gentle mother. She called her every name in the book, her voice shaking with a lifetime of repressed anger and betrayal. "If I ever see you again, I swear to God I will scratch your eyes out," she screamed before hanging up. She looked at me, her eyes filled with tears, but also with a new, steely resolve. "I am so sorry, Maya. I was so blind. I was so afraid of being alone, of losing the person I thought was my best friend, that I was willing to sacrifice my own daughter's peace. I will never forgive myself for that." We hugged, both of us crying for the friendships we had lost. Mine with Isla, hers with Clara. The shared grief, finally acknowledged, brought us closer than we had been in years. My dad immediately started looking into therapists for her, recognizing the deep-seated trauma from her miscarriage and her complicated relationship with her sister. As for Ben and Isla, they became irrelevant. Ben, in a fit of regret, sent me a long, rambling email about 6 months after our breakup, telling me how much he missed me and how his relationship with Isla was complicated and filled with arguments. He said he realized now that what we had was real. I deleted it without responding. They were two deeply flawed people, bound together by shared deceit. I heard through the grapevine that their relationship was volatile and short-lived. They deserved each other. My new relationship with David is everything my relationship with Ben wasn't. It's built on open communication, mutual respect, and genuine kindness. With him, I discovered that I wasn't bad in bed. I had just been with a selfish, uncommunicative partner. David listens. He cares about my pleasure, and he makes me feel beautiful and desire for exactly who I am. The journey of healing taught me everything. I learned that betrayal is never the victim's fault. I learned to never stalk an ex on social media. It's just self-inflicted torture. I learned that cheaters are, at their core, insecure and selfish people who will lie, gaslight, and blame shift to avoid accountability. Their perception of you is a distorted reflection of their own brokenness. Most importantly, I learned my own worth. I am not the person Ben's criticism made me feel I was. I am strong, I am capable, and I am deserving of a love that is honest and true. The storm that blew through my life left wreckage in its wake, but also cleared the air. It swept away the false friends, the toxic family ties, and the insecure, people-pleasing version of myself. In their place, I built something stronger, more authentic, and infinitely more precious. A life of my own design, surrounded by people who love me for me, and a peace that I had to fight like hell to win.